And just as an update, Katrina, did you, we have a 7:40 hearing to continue the public hearing for 711 Newburyport, 111 Newburyport Turnpike, Artistic Landscapes. Apparently, the owner, Anthony Hurley, has been still working with our review engineer on some items, so are they coming or not?
They are not, and they're asking for a continuance.
So we're just going to vote at 7:40 for continuance. So
Okay.
that's a little different. I'm sure everybody is crying tears on that. Of course, I'm looking at the wrong agenda. That's really good.
Here's an agenda.
Yeah, thanks. No, I have it here.
Yes, Larry?
So, has everybody looked at the minutes? I'd like a vote to approve the minutes from the meeting of September 18, 2013.
I defer to Cliff.
You shouldn't do that. I just have one question on for the Artistic Landscapes project. There's a statement in here that Larry asked them to consider roof infiltration cisterns. And then it says Holt answers that they would be willing to do this. That's not my recollection that they said they would do that. I think they said they would
They would
think
be
about it.
willing to do this. I guess it,
I thought they were non-committal, but.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, they would be willing-
Sense they were committed.
They're willing to
consider
look-
it.
oh, willing to consider.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah.
They would be willing to consider.
Right. But they said that on a number of occasions, so
Yeah.
the fact that they hadn't made a decision one way or another led me to think that they were not interested.
They weren't adverse then?
They weren't,
Well,
they didn't agree with it either. There was,
Yeah.
Okay, so that yet to be, well,
Willing to consider would be fine, I think.
So I'll put
But,
consider.
okay, is there anything else?
No, not for me.
As far as, I'd like to see I mean, he's got 500 foot of frontage there. And instead of coming directly off the highway, I'd like to see him have something where he, if a truck's making a delivery or anybody's going in, some kind of little off-road to pull, before you pull in, like you go into the Bullses, it's that little side road to go in, you know what I mean? Right in front there. This way, if someone's pulling in from the highway, and they go there and he's after hours and the gate's closed, this truck's gonna sit there and he's gonna hold up all the traffic on Route 1 now. And now he's gonna have to back up because he can't pull in. You see what I'm saying? If there's
course
a
I do.
little jog road like, just to get get off the road to pull in there, you know what I
Like a
mean?
deceleration lane, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I think that entails working with the state, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that would warrant with the state to do that. We could ask or suggest it, but
We could ask,
Because
because they
of
could level
traffic.
out and maybe
Well,
get,
wouldn't, I mean, there's a safety concern here, actually, it's his property, I mean, why not try and make it safe for everybody?
yeah.
But the lane is in the state's property.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that might be an issue, isn't there guardrail?
Yeah.
Just what you're talking about too, because it drops right off.
Well, sure, but,
Yeah.
I mean, there's land on 133 that's for sale. And if I bought it, wouldn't they have to take the guardrails down for me?
Yeah, and push some fill out, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not debating that that's not a good idea, I just don't know if the state will, will approve it or push for it either.
Well, I mean,
It's a
if-
point of order, you should bring it up during the public hearing.
Okay.
So that the applicants are
thank you for
here,
doing, yeah, because
people
I
can
want to stay
respond
with the
to it.
minutes, okay. It's not included, but we will bring that up.
All right.
Okay,
She's gonna come back.
thank you, though. Any other comments on the minutes? Thank you, Clement.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes with the comments from Cliff.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Good morning, or good afternoon, rather. I'm
I
Melissa
need-
Ogden, I'm here for.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, please, speak into the camera.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I actually could pull up a
You
chair
can
if
just
you
pull up a
want.
chair.
Yeah, pull up, state your name, and carve out some room here, we're gonna need
Sure.
it. What we're taking up right now is the residences of Raleigh Country Club. Ralph DeGiorgio, who signed a tripartite agreement, the release of units, along with, obviously, that tripartite agreement reflects the monies that will be held to ensure completion of the project. according to the certificate, according to the conditions of our permit.
Also, I hope you didn't make copies too. I made copies
No, I
of the
didn't.
Form F and Form J and
Thanks.
cover letter. This is a new
And can you say your
letter.
name?
Yeah, Melissa Ogden, attorney for Raleigh Country Club, the residents at Carriage Pines LLC.
And Ralph DeGiorgio is here
Yes.
as well. Thanks for coming. I guess the stand-in for Jill to...
Yes, I am. So I have here the tripartite agreement, as well as the Form J, which I believe Katrina just handed as part of that packet. And Jill had sent a letter earlier today explaining the outstanding conditions, what has been completed, as well as what was agreed to be bonded out, part of that agreement.
All right, do we have any comments from Larry and/or Katrina, who I know have been working behind the scenes to make sure that the conditions have been completed and met, and also, I believe, have spoken to the, as well as myself, have spoken to the building inspector in terms of just the model, in terms of the model unit, and just that all health and safety issues of the model unit are completely in order in terms of the opinions of the fire department, police department, et cetera. Plumbing, all the inspectional department. So Larry?
Yeah, Katrina's deferred to me. I'm in agreement with Jill's man's October 9th, 2013 letter.
Do people want a chance to read this? Is it so new?
As well as the tripartite agreement, Exhibit A, which is the schedule of the construction task and the amount or the cost assigned to each one, and a total figure of $155,350. And that was increased, if you might remember, from the last meeting that we talked about it, where it was $123,000. And the increase comes in the last two items listed under the construction task, which is install remaining landscaping and install directional signs. And these may well be done by the time of the first conveyance, but it looked like after my inspection last Friday, which was more or less confirmed today, that the area that is in between Loop Road B, or Driveway B, which is the loop, may or may not be finished by the time of the first conveyance. So Jill thought it was best to go ahead and include it. If it's done, it's done, but if it's not, it's included then in the total Exhibit A under the tripartite agreement. So that's the difference in the two figures that you saw from the last time to this time. I was out there today. You have to be careful that you don't get planted out there as a plant, because there's nothing to run around. Planting bushes, planting grasses, planting trees.
Numerous.
A good part of the site is loamed, not seeded yet. Much of the landscaping is complete. In the entrance, on the parking area as you come into the right, the asphalt or bituminous trail that leads off to the left and goes by the cupola, which is also there. Not the cupola, but the gazebo, is complete all the way around to Road A, and much of that landscaping is done. The majority, well, all of that Loop Road B is essentially not done yet. Nothing is done in that area. So, but the rest of it is in very good shape. I would say by the time the 18th rolls around, which is when they project their first closing, they're going to have everything done except what, and maybe more, maybe some of this as well. Also, item 2 there, the bituminous berm along roadway with binder, a lot of that has actually been done. That figure is $6,000, which was in the initial $123,000. A lot of that's been done, but they didn't take that out, so there's a little cushion there.
Okay, I'm just going to, just for the abutters that, hi everyone, that aren't here, I'm just going to read, for Chris Thorson, member of the board. The work to be completed and the amounts occurring, I'm not going to read the amounts because I can just read the aggregate amount, but the tasks that I hear in the tripartite agreement are bituminous paving, top course for area with binder, bituminous berm along roadway with binder, installation of utilities in areas with binder, completion of entrance island, gravel-based roadway for remaining improved roadways, installation of water for the entire property, install water main tap, install fire access road gates, install remaining landscaping, install directional signs, and obviously on these sorts of things, we need a contingency and prevailing wage rate factor, plus or minus 30%. And the total is $155,350,000 is what we're signing and voting on tonight. Do any of the members have any further comments or disagreement before we
No.
get to the signing ceremony?
No.
Is it enough?
Yeah, we actually added, how much, Larry?
25,000.
It's about-
25,000 from the last one.
25,000
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
last
Alright.
time that we looked at this. 25 plus the 30% over the
What's
25.
happened, because you weren't here, is the project has moved faster
Right,
than...
No, yeah, I'm just concerned if it's enough money. I mean, somebody would sell on us already once, right?
And the other thing that
And we're footing the bill?
No, this one.
Not on this one, yeah.
No, I understand, that's why I'm asking. Is it
No,
enough?
it's a very germane question based on,
Yeah, no,
some
that's,
history.
because I wasn't here the last meeting.
yeah,
We
that's
added
why,
prevailing wage factor.
which is
Then again,
important.
he has a point.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm just
We
trying to
could be in
protect
a
the town.
recession next week, the way things are going.
Let's not go there right now. We don't want to get into the general
Could be one
malaise.
now.
We don't want to be in, have the malaise spread into the. All right,
I believe the board took a vote last meeting, but
We did.
you have added a little to it and revised it.
yeah, I'd like to take a vote that reflects the revised tripartite agreement, the new amounts. Can I have a motion?
I'll move to accept the revised tripartite agreement.
Second.
Second, Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's go for it.
So I have two originals,
We have 5 minutes.
and then I also have the release.
There's a little arrow, pointy arrow thing.
Just so we don't forget. I didn't put it on the next one.
Are you
so-
gonna notarize this tonight?
Yes, I will.
Okay. I appreciate your help on it. I mean, just-
Oh, no problem.
I think the communication is good, which is important, so.
Thank you. And if anybody's interested, Sunday, we're having the open house from 12 to 4 on the model unit, so it's worth coming by.
Round of
Come out
golf,
fantastic.
round of golf too.
If you want to play golf, you can play golf. Might be raining.
12 to
I
4?
want to get some
Golf for you.
What day is
some
it?
good
Sunday.
Sunday. It'll be a nice day.
photos available down there, you think?
No, it's
Parts of it, I can...
definitely
What's
worth,
the release?
it's worth coming to see.
Also, quick thanks for getting some input on it.
How much are they?
Well, we just had a price increase, but
I-
the
No, I think I'm
units,
supposed
the
to, I'm
the
actually
units
supposed to
are
take that back.
pushing
today.
500 now.
Thank
And,
you. Yeah, no.
The actual
Really?
release, pardon? I need the release signed as well.
First phase where they were in the fours,
Okay,
mid
do you
fours.
have that?
Mid to
Yes,
high
signed?
fours,
Yes.
those
So
sold
what do you
out
want me to do? Oh,
immediately. And now we have almost the whole second phase reservations.
Really, reservations over second phase already, yeah. There must be some enormous basement or walkout on the lower level on those units back towards the old maintenance area, right?
this
Seems like
is
those
the
have
release of those
more
lots.
more square footage in the ground floor than
Part of that
than
building,
maybe some of the
maybe.
others, huh?
Yeah, some of them have large basements, they have large
You want a
basements.
duplicate?
For
Yes,
walkouts,
please.
and you
can
can
keep
you
one of
finish them
those.
for like a playroom or something.
Already haven't finished, do you finish them, any of them, or?
Yeah, some of them we have,
Yeah,
we are,
yeah.
yeah. And that'll put them all,
It's good, it's somewhere in 3,500 square
almost,
feet.
yeah, over 3,000,
Over
yeah.
3,000, well,
Has everyone signed the tripartite agreement and the release?
I don't know.
The release is going around now.
Is tripartite agreement been signed by everyone?
I never mind.
He doesn't have to sign it.
No, I don't sign.
There's a preference.
Cliff Pearson here?
Semantics.
Yeah.
This is the release.
Well, your timing was impeccable on this thing.
Yeah. We were lucky,
And-
we were
well,
very lucky.
But the units
Woodward. That's why I said that you do it as well as you can, and the people will come.
Well, we kind of
Who is
set
handling,
the bar a little bit too with the
who is
pricing.
handling the sales?
We have a company called Prime Time. They're a large development broker. But we sold, internally, we sold half of them ourselves. So, but the product speaks for itself. I mean,
Yeah.
we're having people
Dave, you
walking
gotta
in,
sign
they're not
in
even
duplicate here,
negotiating
please.
with it, just
In
Is that
duplicate?
right?
they're
you
walking
didn't sign
in,
the
I'll
second
take
I
it.
didn't see it.
I had a guy drive down the street, I was walking down the street, he chased me down the street in his car with a check in his hand.
Are they local people, did you notice?
A couple people from Georgetown, some people from Topsfield, people from Middleton, couple people, we had a couple from Franklin, New Hampshire, so.
You're better than the competition down
I'm
there.
gonna refocus here. Do you need,
And everybody signed freely and voluntarily?
I'll say that louder?
Did everybody sign freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this is something that goes to.
Now, Melissa, are those already signed by the bank? The-
Yes, so you can
Okay, so
actually.
do you want me to make copies right now?
do that?
No.
Yeah.
That's the other one, you can sign that.
Sign where the name is, obviously.
Did I sign it? No. That's okay.
You can actually keep that one.
Oh, did you have
I
two
do
going
it,
on?
and I
Okay.
have a duplicate of the release as well.
Okay.
I recognize
Are you
it.
the last one to sign?
Yep. Is there plenty more out?
Thank you.
Well, if you want age.
Nope.
But what's the demographic?
You know, funny, originally, people asked if we were gonna do a 55 and older, and I didn't want to because,
You know what the market is?
well, you know, I have children that are out of school, so, and I'm in my late 40s. So I didn't want to be restricted, I didn't want to have someone like myself have to wait 7 years to be able to move into stuff. And we actually have a you know, maybe 3 people that are under the 55 that have bought. And they have, you know, older kids that are, you know, one couple in particular has a son in the military. So it's just the two of them, but when he does come home for his leave, he has a place to stay. So, but the majority of them are over 55. I mean, the product was targeted towards 55 and older, but we didn't want the restriction.
Right. But it's so much better than the place that's under construction in Topsail, is it?
Yeah, I don't speak about my competition.
Okay.
I
I
would
did.
say that they did a nice job.
Topsail.
Topsail?
We have a better golf course.
You have cementous siding.
Thank you.
That's what did it, was the cementitious side.
It is a tough night.
Well, when people see that, then I think it does.
Yeah, I haven't had anybody, I had a few people ask what it is, but they didn't know what it was.
Your
So,
insurance rates will be slightly lower.
well, the maintenance cost is what's important to everybody. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your
I'll let
Thank
you
you,
go back
Ralph.
to work. I'm sure I'll see you
We'll
again.
see you on.
Yes.
In fact,
Oh,
come
yeah.
by Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
we're gonna have
Take care.
a little bit of catering too, so.
Good luck.
Thanks, Larry, thank you for your help.
Sanders.
See you later.
Katrina, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over around
I
that,
might
stop
run
over.
Okay.
Keep a fan over there.
The beer and wine.
Well, it's nice when
in the
someone-
clubhouse.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I'm
yeah.
really pleased with the way it came together.
I'd just like to focus on some business that has kind of been ongoing and lingering. And remember, I also, just to go back to this last one, make sure that just for the future, because this will be on, just read Jill's,
Yep.
or make sure if Larry has, it reflects the agreements we just signed, but it's, again, it's in more detail as to what has been done and what needs to be done. There's been some big hurdles in this project, I mean, the CR and so forth.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm amazed how quickly it
I mean,
moved along.
the CR took quite a while.
And, yeah,
They couldn't even start until they had the CR.
Yeah,
so.
As an update, she earlier today, she was under the impression that it could take several more weeks for the state to sign it. they're sending it upstairs to the legal department. But at around 5:30 today, I was copied on an email that Irene Del Bono
Yeah.
was going to, she was going to change the cover page that needed to be changed herself so that they could get it signed, and I think she copied Brent on it. I don't know if the selectmen have to be aware, because they've already approved it. And so they're changing just some language on the cover page. Hopefully that doesn't mean it has to go back to the selectmen to be signed.
The cover page and the
Cover page
cover
of the
letter?
whole thing, the conservation
Oh.
restriction. I'll forward it to the members so they can look to see. And so, but it looks like it will be signed
No, that was a huge hurdle, and, you know, if for some reason the state had rejected that, I think we would all have a
Yeah.
difficult, you know,
It's,
mess on our hands, you know?
Well, and it could be
Considering-
one that's copied by other people in the
Right.
state too,
Yeah.
because it is breaking new ground.
considering the previous project that didn't continue because of economics, maybe other reasons, had the idea of preserving those acreage, 70-plus acres,
Right.
that, we're still preserving that acreage, so.
Yeah.
Perpetuity.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Mr. Chairman, did you publicly announce the
Oh,
continuation of that
thanks.
hearing?
Yeah, I need a vote to, at 7:40, there is a continuation of the 111 Newburyport Turnpike public hearing.
And we continue.
As you know, we had a site visit. Thank you, I guess everyone came in.
I didn't come, but I went
Oh,
on.
David. Maybe you have to, unless you were hiding.
No.
You've seen the site. Does anybody have any comments on the site visit? In terms of, I think site visits are very valuable to try to take a plan and try to visualize it.
Absolutely, the lot is, because it's so, because it's triangular, it's deceiving that it's only an acre. I was expecting there to be much less room back there. I had no idea that
Yeah.
they had that raising the grade as it went down south on Route 1, which, we answered the question about that whole shading issue, so it was helpful.
Yeah.
But seems like it will come together nicely for him, and I think answered all my questions.
Yeah,
The issue of, one thing we were talking about earlier was that the cisterns, that's something that has to do with the water management overlay, right? Not something that's
Well, no, I
necessarily.
think that's actually, isn't it more of a, put it this way, not to mention, it's in the current building code or current building recommendations, it's being implemented more and more, whether or not it's in a watershed protection district or not,
Mhm.
just in terms of water conservation. I'll give an example. Over the years, the Ipswich River watershed, basically, in most years, because of the withdrawal from groundwater and the use for residential and commercial needs, water needs, the river goes down to nothing. In fact, in parts of Reading and going through Middleton, it dries up completely in some years. And they've found out that when people use cisterns or rain barrels or anything, and they do it in aggregate, and a lot of people do it, you can actually preserve a lot of the, thousands and thousands of gallons of groundwater. Now, obviously, it's not a hard and fast solution, but it's more of a, if more and more planning boards try to push it.
Well, that's what I try to push. It makes all the sense in the world to me from that perspective, also from the perspective of the owner, given that he's in the landscaping business and the cost of water in Raleigh, it would certainly be better to recycle to the extent that you can. But is there any authority in the bylaws for us to, okay, so I just want to answer that
I mean,
question.
it's a wise decision. I do it at home for my garden. I got a 400-gallon barrel
Yeah.
that my garden fills up.
There actually is,
Great.
as far as the ZBA is concerned, it's a special permit that they're granting.
Mhm.
And so they rely a lot on the planning board and on Larry's review.
Mhm.
And so if he's looking at it in terms of what they are supposed to be looking at it, we're kind of cheating here, but it's all the same information. And so I think if they didn't want to do it for us, and the ZBA said, well, we want you to do it, it wouldn't be a good move on their part. They'd have to come back and get a modification from the planning board. So
Mhm.
they're more apt to do it if it's something that the ZBA would want them to do.
Some towns actually, part of the stormwater management permit do require it. I had to do it in Dedham, And
I mean, I think we could
I
require
had
it
to.
if we really wanted to, just like the cement boards, so we don't have a specific rule on that. You know, it's a special.
That's a good
It
analogy.
makes no sense.
Right, if somebody is asking for something, then
But I agree with Chris, I mean, it's not like, you can't keep piling on a project at a certain stage, but it's
Well, I
strongly
mean,
recommended, that's why we have a planning, that's why we have a review agent.
Right, and, you know, in the recommendation, like I said, it makes sense. Just when it came down to considering whether to vote for the special permit or not, that seems to be, you know, can you hold off, can you withhold your vote because they're not doing it? You really can't.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
You
remember, this is
can
a
ask
site
for it.
plan, not a special permit.
Okay,
Right,
And the ZBA is a special permit, so they have
Like for the
actually more
watershed
authority.
protection district, right?
We have to approve it, even if they said they didn't want to do it.
Right,
The
Site- because it's
ZBA
site
could say
plan.
they don't want to issue a permit because they did not supply cisterns.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where the planning board has a little leverage.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
there's another example, I brought up the Ipswich River watershed. I mean, I live next to the Mill River where
Mhm.
the town used to get 60%, well, arguably, they're still getting a majority of the water for the town comes out of that watershed. And there are years when the Mill River dries up too. And it doesn't dry up just because of drought, it dries up because the wells are less than 100 feet down, supplying an entire town, and obviously, you know, so these are the considerations that you take and why the state makes you try to have a recharge, a district not only to maintain cleanliness, but to recharge the water.
Mr. Chairman, I just forgot, again, you should probably have this discussion during the public hearing
Yeah,
on the
we are.
site visit.
We are in the public hearing,
Oh, okay, so you opened it?
Yes.
Okay.
and so, that's what we're doing. That's what, so, any other comments? I know, I wanted to put Steve's comment on the record, that he was looking, and so Larry can take that under advisement. I don't know if there's any possibility for the state to allow any widening whatsoever, or provisions for widening by taking down guardrails or whatever, but that's another case where you can just make the recommendation, you know, right?
Right.
I mean, Demoulas obviously that's a situation where there's just so much more traffic.
Oh, sure.
yeah.
It's not comparable.
Well, I think there's a big, huge safety concern there. You know,
Well,
obviously.
you should know, you drove trucks.
I drove a truck for years, I mean, you know, not the business I was in, but, you know, these people, they're running late, they get to the place, he's shut down. Well, now he goes to turn in there, he sees the gates closed, what's he gonna do? And all the people are in back of him, and, you know, if he's got a place that's just a little longer than a truck, so, you know, he can get off the road before he pulls in. This way, if he is closed, he can just be off the road and then wait till the traffic pulls out and then proceed on his way. But
But I mean, how many deliveries is he anticipating getting? I didn't think he'd be doing.
well, he's a supply place. I mean, you know,
There is
he's
some material
growing.
being stored there,
You
so
know,
I
he's
guess
only
he's
been in
gotta
business
deliver.
9 years, and to be taking this step, he must be growing at a good pace. And so obviously, he's using a lot of material. So, you
But, you know,
know,
there aren't any turning lanes at Ipswich Bay Glass that I know of, right?
Excellent.
No, I don't think so. But,
oh no, it's not across the street either. I mean, but you know, the bank,
They don't have
they did it for the bank, the bank, I mean,
You're right, the restriping.
the bank, they did it, okay, the malls, they did it, and it should have been done on the other places too, but of course it never was, but I don't know why
Well,
nobody is taking safety into
Ipswich Bay
consideration.
Glass is not gated though, is it? So, I mean, you can pull in there at all hours.
Well, we can watch
But you know,
where the gate
when you're
is.
pulling off a major highway, which Route
We
1
did ask him to
is,
put the gate further down, so.
Well, I was
if he
about
did
to say, there
you
is no proposed gate there at the gate's much further down.
Right,
In fact-
and he can make the
In fact,
loop,
In fact, he could pull into the entrance and go back out the exit
so
freely
he's
because,
good,
and the
yeah.
gate's below.
so
that.
it's gonna, so the entrance part, he can pull in there any time of the day or
Yeah.
night?
Yeah, right now, they're proposing no gate there. The gate's much further down. You have
The exit gate.
No,
You
his
have
is-
the entrance and you have the exit, and then the gate is down before you go into his yard, where his building is. That's where his gate
Well,
is.
maybe that should be a condition of the decision.
He's
that
got a
they not
situation
put
where
up a
he's
gate
got an
there.
entry
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
and it loops around the
Right,
detention
I
pond.
realize that.
And
Right, I mean, I
it goes
think
out
that
here, so
he
the
did
gate
say
is-
where he was gonna locate that gate, and then I think we all agree that would solve the problem that Steve's bringing up. Whether the condition is that he not have the gate up front, or that it be where he said it is, I don't know if it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but do we have to tell him exactly where to have it, or just tell him not to have it?
Well, it's on the site plan you're gonna approve, but
Yeah, right.
as Cliff says, you could make a condition that there can't be or won't be a gate at the exit or entrance, so that there can be an easy turnoff without any.
Yeah.
I mean, where he has supplies and everything, you know.
Well, it's funny, when we were waiting for, we parked at, some of us parked at the Granite Place, and right before that site visit, and while we were waiting, a truck with granite pulled in.
Well, yeah,
And
he
he just pulled off the side of Route 1 and called the owner, and eventually got a key or something.
Yeah, that
But
was,
I see your point. I mean,
he had no room to pull in.
But,
Yeah.
it's a, I think it's a major concern as far as I'm concerned. safety-
Well, I think
As far
that's,
as safety goes.
I'm glad you brought it up, so
Yeah.
if they can pull out and make that loop, that'd be good.
Just, you know,
I mean, if they can pull in and get off the road.
because Route 1, you know, obviously, during rush hour, it's.
His traffic pattern's gotta be good here.
And he's coming down the hill, so they need to have a
They
good.
need to go in.
I think it's important to have good signage, lighting, so forth, that's important on the site, so. All right, any other comments from the site visit or Larry? I know Larry, we're waiting for the applicants to have Larry, so they can give Larry their final version so that he can make his comments on it.
Well,
Right.
I got final plans, I thought they were final 2 days ago and started
They held-
reviewing, but the applicant contacted me
Held you off.
and said stop because he had not reviewed them yet and he wasn't, apparently, what he did see of them wasn't satisfied that they were in the shape that he wanted us to continue our review.
But in any case, as you know, we're very close to closing the hearing, but I think it's important to make sure that the applicant and Larry's review, we're all on the same page.
When are we continuing to?
That's a good question, thanks. Okay, so,
October 23rd and 30th, and November 6th, 13th, and 20th.
Jean's got the calendar open, because I can't. No, I can't see that one, so. I can see this one.
I guess I don't have any problems. No. I don't think I have.
30th is better for me, but to be
Is
honest.
that Halloween?
I don't know.
31 is Helen.
Okay.
That's 3
Are
weeks,
you
they
going
probably don't want to go.
trick-or-treating?
Probably don't want to. Did they give any indication, Katrina, when?
I know they said the 9th and the 16th they had problems with, and those are the only 2 dates I heard that they had problems with.
But they gave no other indication in terms of when they would prefer that this would be continued to?
No. The ZBA meets the 3rd Thursday, which is, I think, next Thursday, and so.
All right, so I probably think we should go 30th then to make sure they're
Yeah.
done with them. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, Cliff?
Yeah, it's fine.
At 7:30?
23rd is my
Landscape.
pop's
Yeah.
birthday, so.
Oh,
Good luck. 7:30?
7:30?
yeah.
Yes,
Can I make a motion that we continue the hearing on
Yes, please.
111?
Newburyport Turnpike,
Newburyport Turnpike?
artistic landscape.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7:30, October 30th. Now, Market Basket, back in August, I received a memo from,
Actions?
actually, the town administrator, Deborah Egan, just kind of summarizing some actions that the selectmen took in response to our issuance of a minor modification with conditions that reflected Market Basket's implementation of mitigation for sight and sound nuisance as a result of putting in the septic system, which removed some visual and sound screening, which was the pine forest, in essence. And also to encourage them to follow up with continuation of a chain link fence that wasn't put in initially, and some continuation of landscaping of forsythia that wasn't put in, that was on the original plan. So the Board of Selectmen requested Town Council Judy Pickett to review the planning board's decision to grant a minor modification. This is a memo dated to me August 14th. A minor modification to a special permit and site plan to Market Basket. During August 12, 2013 meeting, the Board of Selectmen reviewed the attached report. The Town Council voted to send it to the Planning Board for review. Board of Selectmen is requesting the Planning Board follow Town Council's recommendation to hold a public hearing in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 9, Section 11, and report back in writing with an update on progress the board's making to correct the situation. So, if people have, I know that we've kind of taken this, we discussed it when we received the memorandum from Town Council. And in essence, that states that this was a situation where a minor modification was not called for, and also kind of a general opinion in the decision saying that minor modifications in virtually any case are not allowed, although there was some ambiguity in this, in her opinion. Obviously, we have had situations where we're changing one sign or minor landscaping or one light on something that already has a number of conditions in our certificate of vote, and we've allowed, these amendments to go through without reopening a public hearing. And also, when we, as you know, in Ipswich Bay Glass, because of the magnitude of the addition that they were doing on their building, we did reopen that public hearing. But I think, as a chairman, I think we should defer in the future to be very careful about minor modifications, and when necessary, at least discuss it as a board as to whether we should reopen the public hearing. Now,
Well, I think
I think
we've always done
yeah,
that, so
yeah,
I don't want to leave the
and so
impression
we're-
that that's a new thing.
Right, so I'm iterating what we've already done, right, so. I think the landscaping, the fencing is complete, the berm is complete. Larry, is that correct? Now, I've gone out, it's complete. It's a question of some,
I've not been involved.
I've been out there recently. I think if we did reopen the public hearing, it would entail, obviously, having our review engineer, the usual set of procedures that we do. This is a complicated project because it happened in phases. It started in, 1986? It was 89, 93, when they added the reserve system to the site plan.
Well,
There were, so,
excuse
Go
me,
ahead.
but in our defense, we just wanted to expedite the situation solving it, because the neighbors were suffering, and we just wanted to, we thought that we could just get this going for the neighbors to complete it, so that they wouldn't be exposed to the noise, and have it done right. So that was
noise,
my,
trash, sound.
And I think all that has worked out. I mean,
Yeah.
so the result, I think, is the end result is pretty good. But I would like to talk about the.
That's why it's open, yeah, I mean, that's why I read the memo, because I
Because
didn't.
I carefully.
I have two councils here.
Well, I'm not sure that I had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, we were all there, neighbors were all here and there, and when everything was said and done, everybody had a smile on their face, and everybody was
right.
agreed to everything.
And it seems to me it looks pretty good, but that's the end result. But in
Yeah.
terms of the legal opinion, I mean, I've read this carefully. I've read the cases that town council cites in here, and I've done some of my own research, and I have to respectfully say I just disagree with this opinion. The leading case is one that she cites on page 2. That's the Tenneco Oil Company case. And in that case, the Supreme Court of Massachusetts said that you have to hold a new public hearing if you're going to make a substantive amendment which changes the result of an original deliberate decision. Original deliberate decision, that's the legal
And
standard.
that did not happen in this case.
Exactly, because,
Well, that goes without saying.
oh, wait, a minute. in my
That doesn't
opinion,
apply in this case.
in my opinion, the original deliberate decision was our decision, the prior planning board's decision, to approve a 90,000 square foot retail center with 300 parking spaces and access drives. I'm just guessing what the number of spaces were and what the square footage is, but my
With
point is,
Screening,
with screening and with the accessory features, but that was the original deliberate decision. And we didn't change any of that. As a result of this minor modification, no building was expanded, it did not create new parking spaces, it didn't change the access drives. To me, what we did not change the original deliberate decision in any significant respect. What we actually did was...
In any respect.
Well, we modified part of the landscaping plan for part of the site. That's what we did.
Correct.
Now, in my opinion, in relation to the entire project, that's a fairly insignificant change, and I think we were correct in not, it was within our discretion not to hold a public hearing. Now,
but the intent of that modification was the same as the original,
yes,
or similar
you're
to
right.
the original.
To protect the neighborhood from impact.
But however, public hearings, well, go ahead, I want you to
Well,
get through your
yeah.
your analysis, I want this analysis.
Again, the leading case is the Tenneco oil case, and now when you look at that case, the facts are totally different than what happened here. In that case, the planning board approved a project after a public hearing, and then they met a couple weeks later without a public hearing and rejected the project. And the Supreme Court said that's a major change, you should have held a public hearing. Well, of course, that's not our case by any stretch of imagination. And when you look at the other cases that town council cited, those cases all involve major changes to the footprint or the location of buildings. In at least one of the cases, a building was moved into the front setback area, and it had an impact on the butters. So again, those were significant changes that didn't happen here by any stretch of imagination. The other thing I think we need to recognize is that town council seems to think that, or it's her opinion, that that DeMule has breached the agreement by modifying the septic system. Well, the location of the septic system was approved by the planning board. It was shown on the approved plan that this is your reserve area. So naturally, when their first septic system failed, they were going to locate it in the reserved area, and the planning board had already approved that. So I don't see why that was a material breach in the agreement, or why we had to hold a public hearing to allow them to locate the new septic system in the reserve area shown on the plan. Now, that did result in some changes to the landscaping. They had to remove some of the trees in order to do that, but that must have been contemplated by the original planning board that approved that
Which could have
reserve
put in
system.
revised conditions upon that contingency if they did it, they could have been, those measures that hadn't, when it was put in 2011, but they started thinking about it in 2010, almost the end of 2009, that there was nothing in there to mitigate taking away that screening, but probably should have been in the original decision, right? If they utilize that septic
Well,
system.
I guess
What would
it
they
should
do
have
for
been spelled
mitigation?
out, but I would argue that it was implicit in the original decision. When we approved the reserve area,
Right.
when the prior planning board approved the reserve area, it was implicit that the landscaping would have to be
Restored.
modified. And I think I do think there was a sentence in the original decision saying that the applicant might have to return to the board to install
I
additional
think
landscaping.
that's why the Board of Health came to us, right?
Right, so,
That's why they came to us.
another thing I want to point out is other towns have bylaws that say you can approve changes to the site plan without a public hearing as long as they don't impose a significant deviation from the original site plan or violate the intent of the site plan. Ipswich has a bylaw like that. which has been approved by the Attorney General because it's an approved bylaw. So it was definitely approved by the Attorney General, and so the Attorney General doesn't feel apparently that these types of provisions are illegal because he has approved them or she has approved them. Also, I think there's a practical aspect of this. If we're going to have to hold a public hearing for every change that's made to a site plan, any change in landscaping or any changes in lighting or poles or anything like that. Or a slight change in the roadway. I mean, I think we're gonna be tied in knots. And, you know, Gene and I were on the board at a time when we were very busy, when Raleigh was going through a very big growth spurt. And
Huge subdivision.
and commercial, a lot of commercial development and residential subdivisions. And I tell you, we couldn't function, if it ever gets that busy again,
Yeah.
we will not be able to function as a board if we have to hold a public hearing for every change in a site plan, no matter how minor. So, again, I think this board has to have some discretion in terms of what changes are significant enough that you have to hold a public hearing, like the one, like you mentioned, Ipswich Bay Glass, or what changes are really not that significant in relation to the entire project, that a public hearing is really not required. Because if we don't have that discretion, I don't think, if we get busy again, I don't think we'll be able to function, appropriately or adequately. So I think we acted appropriately in this case, and for that reason, I will vote against holding another public hearing.
Let me ask a question here right now. When we did that site visit with the neighbors, and they asked to extend that berm how many feet? And everybody agreed to it, right there on the spot. And, nothing was asked if we should approve that or anything, we just all agreed to it and everything. We didn't sit down and have a meeting over it, like,
Well, town council was saying that we should have, essentially.
well, I mean, that's.
Well, it was discussed in the public arena
It was.
from the site, yeah, we brought it into the meeting.
Yeah, it was discussed in a planning board meeting.
And then was
Right.
reflected on a plan from Demoulas.
And it was memorialized by a decision letter issued by the board,
Right, well,
Which showed the berm,
which showed the modifications.
right, but
The only thing we didn't do, the town council is saying we should have done, is that we should have advertised it for 2 consecutive weeks in the paper and then held a public hearing on
what,
it.
about that berm that got extended?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Really?
and the trees and the new shrubs and all the landscaping. that was
Changing the
I
landscaping on
agree
the site
with
plan.
Cliff in this because
I do too, I could agree with you more.
this
Well, I
has
mean,
been
I have to hold,
handled quite well with,
if you recall, I brought this up a while ago. I think part of it is a recognition, and I think this is where a little bit of, it's a little arbitrary in terms of, one thing we strive to do is to be consistent with all applicants, but in Market Basket's case, they didn't exactly take an initiative after putting in the septic system
No,
to comply with some of the conditions that were ongoing for their site, as well as for after they put in the septic system.
and I agree that,
So, in other words, the complaints from the neighbors were justified and kind of drove the process, but I think to the what's the word? The planning board's, credit that the planning board picked, including Katrina, having a planner on board and having the group pick up the ball that had been dropped by Demoulas or Market Basket in terms of allowing the neighbors to have a septic system be put in and be blindsided with this project without kind of, there was some communication on site, but obviously it wasn't followed through, or there was some kind of impasse, or, it was tried, I think Demoulas reached out at some point, but nothing came of it.
right. I mean, I think it took too long to get these changes
So we
made.
did formalize in the sense we had meetings, hearings.
The neighbors did have legitimate grievances. I'm not trying to minimize that at all, but it seems to me that the end result is pretty good.
With a lot of input.
With a lot of their input, and I just don't see the value of going through the public hearing process for something that's already been implemented, already been
Right.
approved by the board, And the public hearing would really be just a rubber stamp for what we already approved, I think.
I think we're looking for, in closing this out, something that's enforceable or something that, and something maybe Larry can think about to take this completion and make sure that it doesn't, that it's maintained. As long as Market Basket is there and as long as there's a neighborhood and the butter's so close, that the fence is maintained, that there's some provision in there, which I don't believe it wasn't really in there. Again, it's implicit, but we don't want to have to redo this process when the neighbors complain that the fence falls apart at some point. You know, what are the maintenance? I mean, it's true with any, and I don't like treating anyone any differently. I mean, you could say that about some subdivisions where, you know, the final coat never gets put on or doesn't get put on and the catch basins fall apart.
That's always gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
Enforcement is always a problem.
There's detention, well, you know, I mean, there's detention basins that need to be maintained, there's roadways that need to be maintained.
Trees die, you know.
There's you know, safety railings that need to be painted or replaced if they're wood, or if they rust, if they're metal. So, I mean, this is no different, but I think because of, you know, until we engaged Market Basket, to help Katrina, I mean, I had several phone calls and the abutters pushed it as well, that, you know, they really weren't reacting to trash, they weren't reacting to,
Number of issues.
well, yeah, the issues that are on their previous, the perpetual conditions that go on with their site plan, their special permit and their site plan conditions from '93 and so forth, weren't being adhered to, so, and remember, the planning board is really not an enforcement board.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I just, somehow I missed that opinion earlier, so I just had a chance to review it a moment ago.
As an attorney.
As an attorney, you know, I mean, I appreciate the work that Cliff's done here to actually read the facts in the Tenneco case, because it's easily distinguishable because of the significance of what their, you know, that non-public meeting had on the outcome of that case. And,
Right.
But it seems to me, she did say it was, you know, the board should have acted to enforce the original special permit, or more charitably, just scheduled a public hearing, whether, you know, on our own account. So, and, you know, on one hand, I totally agree, we need to have the discretion to make common sense tweaks to things that don't have any impact on the end result. This did change the end result in that screening was changed as a result of their decision to utilize the reserve septic area. So, because the public was going to be affected, maybe the board could have considered at that time the impact it would have a little more broadly, so, and considered an open meeting, scheduling an open meeting. I think it
Well, we
actually-
did,
yeah.
we did do that. We
had all the
considered,
neighbors here.
it was an open meeting, it wasn't a
But
public
it's
hearing.
not
Wasn't a
construed,
public
it's
hearing,
not
right.
construed
It was
as,
an open meeting.
And the
And the
distinctions are
and the
becoming more.
but
becoming more
statutorily, it
clear.
needed to be a public hearing.
And the neighbors were there, and we
But-
considered their comments.
One of the issues here
Right.
is Market Basket
Yeah.
not performing in a timely manner.
Right,
Dragging it out,
right.
meetings getting canceled because Market Basket couldn't show or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
If everything moved in a normal manner, this issue would never have come up, I don't believe.
No, I agree.
I say, so had Market Basket just gotten on board a little earlier and done what they were, you know.
Had more continually.
Yeah.
They said they would do things and then it would drag out for months.
Mhm.
How long did the whole process take? I mean, I was Johnny come lately, but it seems like
Katrina.
when I first came on board,
Couple of
that,
years.
Yeah.
Couple
we were
years.
aware of the process with Market Basket, and see, you know, like I said, I came late and everything, but, how long did it take for all this?
2009 is when the septic was, the woods were first cleared, I believe.
Shortly
septic
after
area.
that, the neighbors came to us.
And
I
I
don't
think
think-
2010, the planning board actually did vote to allow the modification, allow the septic, because it was kind of an after the fact, it was already
When
in.
did they start it?
2009?
Start what, the septic?
Septic.
Yeah.
2009.
Well, again, I
So
think,
this
The point of law here is what's important. Whether or not we acknowledge that we should have held a public hearing, and whether or not we are in error in working through a minor modification scenario, procedure versus,
I mean,
I mean, I'm
you've
not.
been on this board for the length of time you have, and your,
And
if your
and
experience
I'm kind of
is,
a new chairman in terms of these kind of things because
I mean,
I
it seems to me like,
I think we need
Cliff's
some
line, I think it makes a
discretion.
lot of sense, but, and exactly to retain that discretion, but I guess we just have to be cautious.
Yeah,
When we
I
confront
think,
it.
yeah, you're right.
I
I
think we
think
have to.
this can be abused, this authority. I don't think there's any doubt about it, you know. But every time we're faced with a situation, which I think has been our practice, we need to have a discussion about how to proceed, whether, you know, whether the change is so significant that you should have a public hearing, as we did in the Ipswich Bay Glass situation, so.
And then you end up taking a modified special permit and then it gets recorded.
I also think,
With the changes, right? It was
right,
a minor modification, was that,
Pardon?
was a minor modification recorded?
It was, and it didn't really have to be,
That's
but
what I
it
thought.
was recorded because you felt it was important enough to.
Right.
To put it on in the title, so that someone can see that those conditions exist if someone was going to, as you know, do a title search and see
Sure.
what they were getting into. So, I mean, I just have to call as chairman, you know, we have to come up with our own, I need to, and this is a matter of responding to the selectmen's request, you know, to see whether or not, number one, are we going to correct this by, I want to take a vote to suggest that John Matthew come in to reopen a public hearing so that we go through more formalized process.
I mean, it seems like we're
It's kind of backing in, it's kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind-
it's finally done.
It's
and
kind
now
of
we
doing
open it-
something,
open
yeah.
the hearing.
well, that's my question.
Yeah.
We are finally done. I mean, the
Well,
change.
we're not done in terms of, you know, engaging Larry, I mean, if, you know, getting a report. is it
Okay.
finished, that sort of thing.
But all the landscaping is in the
To
ground.
formalize a
The
process.
fence is up, and it looks good.
A public hearing is a more formalized process, I guess. No, I think they're both formal, I take that back. Because I'm not gonna discount or minimize what I believe the way we handle
Yeah.
these things. Because I think we place the same importance on holding people to
Agree with it.
any
Right.
modification, whether it be, yeah,
Right.
we don't minimize something just because it's not in a public hearing.
Right.
And we never have, you know.
Right.
And so, we haven't, because we treat people the same.
And when you look at the changes that the Moore's made, I mean, they're good. I mean, as far as I can tell, I mean, it looks like they really mitigated the problem. So unless the residents still have complaints about various issues, but it seems like it came out all right to me. The fence looks very nice, and you can see that as those trees grow, it'll be a real buffer for that
They
neighborhood.
have started growing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Kept them alive.
unfortunately, it does take a few years for trees to get bigger, you know.
But they started pretty.
But they started, they're pretty big trees. What are they, 8 feet or
Yeah,
something?
yeah,
The fence was,
So-
it was an 8-foot fence?
yes,
Um,
because they,
Yeah, it's taller than what
I
we
mean,
now.
I think in terms of a response to the selectmen, I think we should summarize or describe exactly what's been done, and, you know, in terms of the landscaping plan, and maybe ask Larry to give us a report on that, and you could attach a copy of Larry's report, or, you know, something
Yeah.
like that, you know.
And you can actually include a date in the future that you're going to revisit the site to make sure nothing has died and that nothing needs to be replaced.
Sure.
now I'd like to incorporate in a memo to them. You know, I would like you to come up, you know, with some maintenance suggestions, you know. Like we did a similar thing with, you know, with El Tapadio, you know.
Yeah.
In terms of at what point do they need to, you know, implement catch basin, you know, the runoff, you know. There's some maintenance provisions for the back, you know, the side, to make sure the runoff doesn't go to the neighbor's
Should we
property.
include?
Those inspectional things happen in intervals, right? 6 months, 12 months.
Yeah.
3, 6, 12. But I think in this case,
We do have funds
We need an-
still for my.
you know, and I think we need to ask, again, Market Basket to pay for that time. And make that as a formal request, and they should be paying for that, not us.
We still have funds for them.
Yeah, we still, yeah, so, is that,
Should we include
Well,
also a little bit of the history from our point of view on what did transpire as far as the public goes?
Well,
I think it can be succinct. You
Yeah.
don't need, it can be succinct.
We met with
It
everybody.
doesn't need
who
to,
wanted
it doesn't need to
do this.
ramble, we don't need to reinvent what previous planning boards did or didn't do, that's not.
Right.
Right,
But
no,
we-
I
what
wouldn't
we
go into
do-
the history, but I think the
Recent
recent meetings that
yeah.
we've had.
And I
don't think
know
that would hurt.
our planner,
Site plan, I mean, site visit that was made.
our outgoing planner,
I really only got 2 days left.
no, but you already have some, you already done the timeline, so.
I do have a timeline, yeah.
So,
It's actually right in the.
she's already kept the
file.
record. So that record, I think, can just be translated into a brief narrative and memo. I think it's important we do respond. I want to respond to the selectmen because they asked it for a response.
Sure.
Are you gonna take an official vote?
So I am going to take the first vote, have a motion to reopen the public hearing for Market Basket for the 1993 site plan.
You want you want a motion?
Yep.
Right.
The same thing, I think I did this about 6 months ago. No, a year ago did I do this? I don't think
know.
I did, a year ago I asked. Do I have a motion? Okay. Having no motion, do I have a revised motion to have our Market Basket pay for our agent to go out and do a closeout site visit that has been done in accordance to the plan that we recorded as a minor modification, and incorporated all the elements of that plan and whether or not it's been built according to plan, and also make recommendations to them for ongoing maintenance, if there is any erosion or ongoing maintenance of the entire landscaped and fenced area. That's all, so motion, just so that.
Is that a motion?
I'll make that
What's
one.
that motion?
Yeah, that
I'll second whatever
we,
you
the
said.
second, the first part of that motion is obviously to have Larry, Market Basket pay Larry to go out and
Mhm.
Review.
review it.
We have the money anyway, so.
And if there isn't enough, then obviously they have to
Right.
add to that. And that information, again, gets put in the file, in the public record. The second part of it is that our planner summarize and respond to the selectmen's letter of August 13th, 2013.
Well,
Go ahead.
I would only, I mean, just, in any way, does the board feel it important to let the selectmen know that we are retaining the discretion to a certain degree to continue to make these decisions independently of, I mean, like I said, that guidance is, there's almost no basis for a minor modification.
Well, she says field changes can be done without a public
Okay.
hearing, but she doesn't define
That's
what
the tiny bit of ambiguity.
what a
that I
field
thought-
change is, so I don't know,
Which includes lot line changes, she said, too.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
Of course, you make a good
I've heard
point.
that
I mean, she-
Larry used that term, field change, but.
Which includes what? Lot?
Lot line changes. Which to me seems like a big thing.
It's changed lot lines.
But it,
I mean, then again, that may be gratuitous to add that comment. We might not need to, explain that how we'll necessarily, we're not gonna tell them we're always gonna follow that going forward.
right.
Just by virtue of the fact that we're,
No, but I take the opinion very seriously as chairman. Obviously, I'm gonna look at everything we do through a lens that I'm going
But
to, I would be reluctant to use minor modifications on, I mean, I'm gonna take everything on a case-by-case
Mhm.
basis.
Well, I think your point was, shouldn't we tell the selectmen that we've reviewed this whole thing and we've determined that what we did was appropriate and that we don't believe that holding a new public hearing would be necessary or required.
I guess that's really what, I mean, to respond simply to this
Right.
inquiry, letting them know we're not gonna open it for that reason.
Right.
I think that,
I think
as a non-voting member,
Well,
can only
No,
say I
I
support that.
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Gee, we gotta give them a courtesy call because.
Well, because otherwise you're only responding to one part of their memo,
Right.
Well, the memo states that the board is requesting the planner to follow, they're requesting, to follow a recommendation, and they're talking about this case,
Mhm.
a special permanent site plan for Market Basket.
So when we vote to not open this public meeting, aren't we?
And to please report back in writing with an update on the progress. Well,
Yeah,
we had an extensive discussion, and we will report back in writing.
Well, maybe this is a better way of doing this. How about if, is Katrina gonna draft this letter or?
She might be.
Or microphone. Yes?
I doubt very much I will have a finished copy, because I'm gonna be working on the 111 Newburyport Turnpike.
Well, I would
certificate.
Well, I was just gonna
So
say,
I've
what-
only got 2 days to do this and do the
Well, I would
minutes from
request
this
that,
meeting.
well, I would request that you work on this letter. Because it is something.
And not do anything.
In lieu of the minutes?
Well, no, minutes, but I mean, if possible.
Well, I really think that it would be nice if a planning board member helped write the feeling of, or how the planning board feels. What I can do is sum up the minutes, and I did take, pretty good minutes on your description, and if the planning board agrees with how Cliff felt, I could say the whole planning board feels that way, but unless you take a vote. I
No, but I'm
can't
saying,
put
I'm,
words on
no,
it.
wait, I'm suggesting that if you have the time, that you go ahead and draft such a letter, and then we'll vote on the draft letter, you know.
Okay,
rather-
so, and then you can change it to, make
Right, we can
changes
make
to
whatever
it.
change, so we
That'd
don't,
be a
That's
start.
what you
But
should
you
just write.
on the letter was much shorter than what we've had for full discussion here. We're just saying we're gonna just say how to answer this particular case.
right.
But we had full.
You know, it does seem like that letter says, open the hearing.
It does, no doubt about it. And then
So I
town
think we have to at
council
least
will say-
respond to them.
Right,
Whether we're going to do that or not.
right.
Well, the work has been done, it needs to be reviewed by Larry, and then,
I didn't even get a motion. I guess I can make the motion.
I
No,
can't-
no, I'm suggesting, we'll have the letter in front of us.
No, but
and
make the
we'll-
motion to reopen the hearing.
Oh,
I don't have the votes, it's kind of like the Hastor rule.
yeah, you
no.
You don't have the
we're not
votes.
gonna-
Someone could make the motion so it could be voted down then.
Yeah, let's just, I guess I can make the motion.
You can,
But, yeah.
I
but no
like-
one's gonna second it.
I
I
didn't,
don't
I
think.
didn't get
No,
a
but just so you could vote
Yeah,
it down. is
move to
what
reopen
I'm
In
saying.
second, still vote against it.
Yeah,
So
so that we.
I just wanna-
we have-
Okay,
I already-
I'll do it again.
Yeah,
and I'll
okay,
second.
yeah.
Make
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to reopen the Market Basket public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor? All those opposed?
I
Aye.
oppose.
Any abstentions? So that's it. Okay, so it's unanimously opposed.
Now, you had another motion.
On the first time, I remember I abstained.
So my point is, let's see what the letter says, and then the board can vote on that letter, rather than
So we
having,
don't need to have a formal vote
Right,
to
right.
send, all right.
and I'll be, you know, I'll be happy to look at the letter and, you know,
Myself as well.
Suggest
I
change.
mean, I know the history of the site as well.
Mhm.
I think this will give more time for people. It makes wonderful reading. Katrina, if you need this packet, we do have a packet which has the previous decisions and so forth. And I would suggest that people read it so that we do make, I think, is an important response to them of how we.
and I don't think this needs to be a long thing, I mean.
No, it's succinct. I mean, we had,
You know,
This
if
is not-
anything good comes from this, and you could put that in the letter too, that will,
What Chris
there
is
is a
over.
lesson learned from this, is develop a rule of thumb for these major and minor modifications. And I know just, not that other towns are right, but in other towns I've worked in, they usually, if it had any effect on the abutters whatsoever, they would hold a public hearing. And then if it didn't have an effect, and even if it was kind of a major change, but it didn't affect the neighbors, it was a minor modification.
The
And
big
and that
problem-
would, that
Well,
would,
I like the way Ipswich defines it, I really like the way they define it, because it can't be significant, it can't be contrary to the original intent of the site plan.
And you said
Which
that's.
I think in this case,
Bylaws?
what's that?
That's part of the AG approved bylaws?
Yeah, it was approved by the Attorney General, so, in this case, what we approved was consistent with the original intent, which was to buffer the neighbors, you know,
Right.
so.
I thought everything was said and done, everybody was happy.
Right.
Well, the
The
problem
pla-
here is it just took too long to get
Yeah,
it done,
right.
and that's
Yeah.
where the issue came
well,
from.
it also exposed some lack of compliance on Market Basket's part.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, that a public hearing could have, in a formalized fashion, expose all these other issues. I think it goes just beyond the septic issue. The septic issue kind of triggered,
Noise.
well, that the abutters' frustration and the abutters.
They had
keeping-
issues with the noise and.
And the abutters keeping records.
Deliveries and things.
The abutters, and because of the public records, know what the expectations were for Market Basket, and which items weren't, which items weren't being complied with in their opinion. So. it
Yeah,
kind
but
of
you don't necessarily hold a public
So
hearing
I'm
every
saying-
time that there's a complaint, you
Right.
know, I mean.
No, I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying from a point of view of consistency. I mean, Cliff and I mean, I've been on boards a long time,
Well, it's
and I am very reluctant to treat one group different than another group, you know, that's all.
it's in Market best interest to be a good neighbor.
You would think so.
Yeah.
You know, the town of Raleigh's zoning bylaws do allow for modifications of special permit, right, in the open space residential development bylaw. And that's written right into the bylaw that certain modifications are allowed without a public hearing.
That's right, yeah.
Well, you know, I mean,
Prove
the
by the attorney.
successor,
Mhm.
our next planner, you know, is an ongoing, obviously we have ongoing projects to look carefully at our rules and regs
Mhm.
and our bylaws to maybe clarify these
I mean,
things.
that would be obviously the place to do it, and that might be some, do we suggest that in the letter? That we're, we look into
Yeah.
that?
Because I think we need a fee schedule that's fair in these cases too.
Yeah.
We don't
Right.
just open it up to grab another $1,000 from something.
Or I could add that the zoning review committee may be looking into adding a bylaw for allowing certain.
And if there, we have to reopen.
Right,
it up.
and we did talk, oh, you weren't at that meeting, but we did
Right,
talk
but you said
about
that.
this proposed bylaw that would basically say, you know, you don't need a public hearing in case of insignificant changes. We could put limits on our discretion. For example, I propose at this meeting that we could say that any modification that increases the footprint or relocates buildings or
Impervious area parking.
does things like that, cannot be considered, or shall be considered significant, so you would have to hold a public hearing,
Or
so.
increases noise, or,
Mhm.
I mean, so something like that would be very sensible to actually put, you know, limits on what we can do without a public hearing. I think that would be a good idea.
It seems like drafting it could be complicated because you never know what eventualities could
No,
come
you
before
can't,
you,
right.
you know, but,
but some guideline and fee schedule that
Yeah.
makes sense is better than nothing.
right.
You had an open motion, I think,
No.
with Larry and,
No,
or do we?
no, that's not gonna be in the form of a motion.
Mhm.
Do we we don't need a motion on
I don't
that
think so.
Okay.
to have Katrina. I think, and we are going to vote though, before we obviously forward the letter to the selectmen
Mhm.
in our response, so we can definitely have a draft to discuss and get this right.
Right.
With some recommendations, I think important, you're on the right track, how do we interpret this going forward,
Right.
so.
I think that that's what they want to know.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I guess I'm kicking this one down the road too again. We need to, since that discussion took a long time, Katrina is, I think has an important agenda item here ongoing that we truly, and Katrina, I mean, you've given us information on a planning board revolving account. What other town boards use it?
Oh, the ZBA, Board of Health, I believe the Conservation Commission has one, but it's under another state law maybe. Parks and Rec has a 53.5.
All right, can you summarize quickly again? That basically, it's an account that we can utilize
All the
for the performance of our
application
duties.
fees, yep, for the performance of the
planning board.
duties that are involved with the requirements for each application. And so anything involved, and basically it's all the planning board does, is applications.
We do.
Right now, you don't do many side projects like, you know, rules and regs or master plan or
Sending
anything
people
like
to
that.
training. those
All
sorts
your
of things.
work involves applications right now. And so it can be spent for outside consultants, you know, outside of Larry.
Oh, like traffic consultant.
Yeah, and it could be used to pay for the legal
Well, you know-
ads, so that the applicants don't have to pay that on top of the $2,000 fee.
And it also could be used, I mean, I know Dedham used town funds to bring in, who's the guy that wrote the book, the planning book?
Oh, Rob,
Brakowski? No,
yeah, Mark Bobrowski.
Brabowski
Mhm.
came in and helped them rewrite their zoning, or at least look it over.
Yeah, Foxborough
See which,
hired
so,
him to.
you know, And that's, you can't expect volunteers to meet consistently and always. When you have somebody come in as a paid consultant, then it kind of pinpoints and you kind of distill, these are the projects that you can implement, you know? Other than that, they just go on and on and on, you know, because volunteers,
So there'd be no limits? I mean, would there have to be limits on dollar amounts, right? I mean, so what are we talking about? I mean,
I think, I include I wrote a draft one. Is it included in this one? I don't know if I even included it again.
but again, it can't be approved until the spring town
Yeah.
meeting.
It's really up to the finance committee to set a limit, but ZBA was 4,000, I threw 5,000 down, you know.
Mhm.
But it's really up to them to set a limit.
oh, okay.
And this wouldn't be proposed until next spring anyway, but
Well,
I
see,
was
what
just
happened,
hoping for you to take the vote so we knew it would be placed on the warrant.
the last 2 years, we had to go for supplemental funds after the town meeting and to restore, we had to make our budget balanced because we overspent our, because the office had some things that just needed to be done. We overspent our expense budget, and that wouldn't have to occur, you know, that wouldn't have to happen. So things like that.
Sure.
It's-
I'll look over the materials she gave. Right now, I mean, you know, the application fees we take in would go into that account, and that's.
With a limit.
With a limit, but what's the current system?
It goes into the general fund.
Goes in the general, okay.
And then it's very difficult to get money out of that. It takes either a vote at town meeting or in May, after the town meeting happens, it can be a transfer.
And does the town still provide a supplemental budget for the board? I mean,
Well, they balance,
Yes.
they have to balance. So-
Right, and they may look at that again, if we're not using it, now that we have the revolving account, they could lower it maybe. ZBA, I mean, the ZBA has one, and my experience was it wasn't really touched, or maybe they forgot about it, I don't know, but I started spending it because, you know, they needed material. And so, yeah, and so their expense line could have been reduced probably.
No, it's scrutinized by the board, it's not a slush fund by
Sure.
any stretch. I know in Conservation Commission, when I was chairman there, we used, some members would be sent to the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners Conference at Holy Cross each year, those sorts of things. There was some training, so, and I think those are really,
Actually, speaking of that, I did
to be
send
able
out
to put in for that without having a big.
well, I was actually, I saw this at $30 a class,
Yeah.
and that's pretty reasonable.
When I was working with the ZBA, I got a bunch of the ZBA members to go, and we all went to a couple
Right,
of
you
them.
went to us, yeah.
They put the same ones on every year, so I've already gone to them, but they are very useful.
Should we be working on our fee structure at the same time that's coming into this?
Yeah, and that was part of the rules and regs. I remember
Yep.
yeah, and so what I provided in that revision is a chart, I think, with a bunch of different towns and what they charge for the different applications. And I was, you know, it was kind of like the board could look at them and then talk about it and decide if they wanted to increase or decrease their fees. in some
Right, I
cases.
think unless something really, you know, of any size comes before us, I think we'll have some time in meetings to go over rules and regs. Because Raleigh Country Club is ongoing, Village Green is ongoing.
So in this transition folder for the new planner too, and I have, you know, it explained how far I got on it and what has to be done next. And so they can run with it, hopefully.
What is happening?
So, also, does anybody have any other, is there correspondence?
Did you want to vote on
Well,
Not-
that? The revolving?
we could, I mean, you know, unless people want to discuss it further or research it further.
I think we should discuss it.
You know,
mean,
it
Chris,
makes
again-
sense. I don't,
I mean, I'd like
I
to
don't know
vote when
what-
we
I
have a
don't know what
consensus.
the problems we've
in
had
front
with
of
the
us.
existing
Right.
fund, so, you know, but it sounds like this makes a lot more
And I'd
sense
like
to
to do-
administer without having to go back to the town periodically to get supplemental funds.
I might want to lay out, put it on the agenda and lay out our current budget, just so that people,
Yeah, I think we need to have a clear night when.
Yeah, we got plenty of time between now and spring.
but I agree with Katrina, I don't want to keep kicking it, because before you know, you're in January.
Well, I don't have to put it on the agenda again
Right.
at all, so it's fine with me.
Big move.
Speaking of Katrina not having to do anything, I just want to publicly thank her for
Yes.
her tireless efforts in the office to rescue, I guess, a ship taking on water when we were in the absence of any help, and she came on strongly and reorganized the office. Helped me enormously in being prepared for meetings and researching complex issues to come up with possible solutions prior to meetings. The kind of communication that she exhibited with proponents and applicants, and with Larry. Larry knew that I was bothering him a lot before Katrina came. She supplanted. I was happy to step back, believe me. Not that Larry, I mean, it was interesting stuff, but I think to have professional help on a board that is filled with elected volunteers, we are elected, but we are volunteers, unpaid volunteers, but not to, I think in terms of, and I think Cliff knows this, that the town has a CPA, we have a master plan, we have a town that has evolved, and the only way it's going to evolve in a way that maintains the town's character and maintains, I guess, the quality of the town is to have a strong planning board. And without that, obviously, working in collaboration with the other boards and a planning board helps make them stronger too.
And a strong plan.
We didn't have a planner, but Katrina, what she accomplished in 1 year, pretty amazing. It was putting in a lot of hours beyond even the hours that she had for a part-time position. I know that for a fact because of the times that I talked to her that were off hours, just to, she was always available, no matter when I had it, because obviously my hours as chairman wouldn't always be the same as hers. But the email traffic and the response or feedback I got from people who were before us is that was nothing but positive. So I just want to thank you again and wish you all the success, and Middleton's a better for it. So, thanks.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if anybody saw that office prior to Katrina, she did a wonderful job of
No,
reorganizing.
the office was well hidden, right?
Well,
You couldn't see it
fortunately, it was prior to you coming.
Yeah.
It was terrible, but now
And I also want to
professional.
thank, I think the job is posted in an expeditious fashion by the personnel officer, town administrator. It's posted throughout the state, various databases of the state.
MMA.
MMA, yeah. So it is out there, and here we go again. So,
When does the window close for applications?
I forgot.
Yeah.
If it isn't a conflict of interest, I volunteer to help screen the applicants. And I don't know if that's a conflict or not.
I don't think so. I mean, I think you're qualified, but again, I'm always ready.
Unless they're related or
So,
something like that.
all right, if it's okay, I'm going to give this to Katrina tomorrow. Another item, this is just a little bit for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
First.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Those are good.
Pretty good?